my reactions to week 5 of the 2024-2025 NFL season. Starting with the Thursday night football game, Buccaneers versus Falcons. The Falcons ended up beating the Buccaneers. It was a close game. Baker Mayfield had a hell of a game. So did Kirk Cousins. He's another quarterback that entered the 500-yard game club. The game was close. I didn't really watch the game, but I saw the highlights, and Buccaneers had a chance to win. They got an interception off of Kirk Cousins, could have sealed the game, but the defense for the Falcons were able to force a punt, and the Falcons took care of the rest. They got I think they got they got a game-tying field goal, and then in overtime, they got the ball first, and then they scored. Drake London got hurt, and ironically, the guy that replaced him, or was in place of him because of an injury, was KhaDarel Hodge, who caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Overall, it was a great game, but the Buccaneers, who do they play next week? Gosh dang it, man, I really need to get a laptop. The Falcons, they play the Panthers. The Buccaneers, I think they play the Saints. Looking to bounce back after having lost back-to-back games, I think. The Buccaneers have. We'll see what happens. But the next games, Sunday morning football. The first London game of the season. Jets versus Vikings. Another game that I didn't really watch. I checked the highlights though. Apparently Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions. One of which I saw in the second half, because I was asleep for I was asleep for the first half, so I didn't really see the first half. I saw the second half. I saw an interception that he threw towards the end of the game. The play before, he could have connected with, I think it was Garrett Wilson. That would have given them a touchdown. But the next play, he threw an interception, and that was that. So the Jets, they were down like 17 points. They almost came back, but yeah, they're now 2-3. They play the Bills on Monday Night Football next week, and the Vikings, who did the Vikings play? I don't think they play next week, actually. I think they're on bye. I could be wrong, though. But the next games, Ravens-Bengals, a shootout. The Ravens 141-38. Lamar Jackson was a baller. He made an insane MVP type play. Falling out of bounds, he threw a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. Overall, it was a back and forth game. Towards the end of the game, both quarterbacks exchanged costly interception, which ultimately ended up helping the Ravens. Joe Burrow threw an interception late in the fourth quarter, which gave the Ravens a chance to tie the game, which they did. And after that, the Bengals couldn't do anything offensively, mainly because they didn't throw the football that much after that. And the Ravens, in overtime, I think the Ravens got the ball first, but he fumbled the football. The Bengals recovered. They had a chance for a field goal after that. They missed it. And the Ravens, after a long run from Derrick Henry, which got them in to like the red zone, gave them the game basically, because after that they kicked the game-winning field goal. Justin Tucker did. So overall, a great game. No defense was played absolutely at all. Um, the Ravens, they played the Commanders in Baltimore week 6, and the Bengals, they play the Giants on Sunday Night Football in New York. Browns, Commanders. Like I said before, the Browns might honestly have the worst offense in the league. Deshaun Watson is playing like hot garbage. And the Commanders are red hot right now. They've won the last 4 games after starting off 0-1. And they have a chance to cement themselves as a legit team if they beat the Ravens. But yeah, it was a beatdown from the Commanders against the Browns. And I mean, the Browns defense, they try, but when your offense is anemic, there's not really much you can do on the defensive side of the football. But they play the Eagles next week, coming off a bye, and the Commanders, they play like I said, they play the Ravens next week, week 6. Bills, Texans. The Texans ended up beating the Bills. Josh Allen might have had one of his worst games of his career, actually. He didn't throw any interceptions necessarily, but he went like 9 for 45 or something like that. To be fair, Khalil Shakir, his only weapon basically, was injured. So he was out of the game. Well, he got injured before, so he didn't play in the game at all. But not to mention the Bills outside of him don't really have many receivers, at least consistent ones, to throw the football to. Josh Allen is pretty much expected to be Superman every game, which he's capable of. He just didn't this game. And the Texans took advantage. They won the game. And despite Josh Allen playing his worst game arguably of his career, the Bills still had a chance to win the game. Texans, they scored a few touchdowns with one of them was from C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins, which Nico Collins got hurt on. I think it was a deep post route. But even after that, the Bills were able to come back, make it a game, and they had the ball towards the end of the fourth quarter, but didn't do anything. They just questionable play calling from Sean McDermott, which ultimately cost him the game, and the Texans were able to get the ball back in Bills territory, which they only needed a few yards to get a game-winning field goal, basically. So overall, this was one of the worst games that the Bills played this season, and they still almost won. But yeah, the Bills, they play the Jets next week, and the Texans, they play the Patriots, who are arguably the worst team in football. Jaguars, Colts, or Colts, Jaguars, because technically the game was in Jacksonville, so Colts, Jaguars. Jaguars won this game. They were up by like as many as 2 possessions, but the Colts gave them a hell of a fight. But ultimately, Jacksonville played unbelievable football, despite the defense giving up 41 points. They did make a play to end the game. Trayvon Walker did. And Trevor Lawrence had one of the best games of his career, basically. He had a crazy 85-yard touchdown to Brian Thomas Jr., who's looking like a stud at receiver. But overall, a great win for the Jaguars after starting 0-4. They have a chance to go on a potential winning streak in their home away from home, basically, in London next week against the Bears. And the Colts, they play the Titans off a bye. Patriots, Dolphins, or Dolphins, Patriots, because technically the game is in New England, Boston, Massachusetts, to be specific. It was a boring game, honestly. The Dolphins ended up winning the game 15-10 in an absolute shit show, basically. The Dolphins were able to Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback for the Dolphins, because Tua is out potentially for the year. I don't really know. But Tyler Huntley won his first game of the season against the Patriots, who might be the worst team in football. But a great win for the Dolphins. Patriots might end up getting the first overall pick, but we'll see. It's still a long season, so anything could happen. Panthers, Bears in another blowout game. The Bears destroyed the Panthers, who, again, is arguably the worst team in football, right there with the Patriots. Andy Dalton, well, the game got out of hand, and Andy Dalton got, he didn't really get benched, but the game was so out of hand that he practically did. And Bryce Young came in for him. It's not really, he didn't really do that much because I think it was late in the fourth quarter that he played. But the Bears dominated from start to finish. Caleb Williams looked really good. Bears defense is top 5. Overall, a great win for the Bears. They're 3-2 now. They go to London against the Jaguars, and the Panthers, they play the Falcons. I think that's all the Sunday morning games. Sunday afternoon games. Raiders, Broncos. I don't know what the Raiders are doing right now. They're not really playing that well. Devontae Adams wants out of Vegas, and yeah, the Broncos, having upset the last 2 teams they played, just took it to the Raiders basically in this game. Just dominated. Patrick Surtain had an insane pick 6 against the Raiders. My bad. The Broncos are playing really well right now. The defense is playing like top 5. And the Raiders, they're a mess right now. I do still believe in Antonio Pierce as the head coach, but the Raiders aren't doing so well right now. They play the Steelers next week, and the Broncos, they play the Chargers coming off a bye. So we'll see what happens, but the Broncos, after starting off 0-2, have now won the last 3 games, and they could potentially be a playoff team this year. I mean, Bo Nix is playing pretty well, despite him being a rookie. he's not playing as well as Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels he's not even in the race for offensive rookie of the year anymore. He's in the race of he's in the race for MVP at this point. Like, he's just balling out of his mind. But Bo Nix is still playing really well. So is Caleb Williams for the Bears. So the rookie quarterbacks. I mean, Drake May hasn't started yet, so he hasn't really played yet. We'll see how he does for the Patriots. But overall, 3 of the quarterbacks that were drafted in this year's draft are playing really well. The one is playing at an MVP level. The other 2 are playing very well also. But Packers Rams. Jordan Love, his second game starting, almost came back in the second half against the Vikings last week, but they won this game. The Packers did. Jordan Love threw a pick 6 to the Rams. After that, he threw a big touchdown to Tucker Kraft, their tight end. And overall, like I mean, it was a pretty good win for the Packers. They play who do they play next week? I don't think they play next week. I think they're on bye. Could be mistaken. Actually, no, they play the Cardinals next week. The Rams just look like an infirmary. Like I said before, they're struggling right now, and as well as Matthew Stafford has been playing at times, there's not really much the team can do considering that almost everybody's on injured reserve. I mean, their best defensive player over the last couple of years retired in the offseason, and like I said, they just have a lot of injuries right now, so they're not doing too well right now. They're 1-4. But I wonder if Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are coming back this year. If they get healthy, then they could still potentially make a run in the playoffs. But we'll see. But yeah, right now the Rams aren't doing too well. They're 1-4. They play the Rams play next week? I don't think they do. No, the Rams are one of the teams that are on bye this week. Seahawks or Giants Seahawks. The Giants upset the Seahawks. Seahawks, they played terrible this game. Had a chance to win late in the game, but they had a chance to at least tie the game late in the fourth quarter, but the Giants just played they played their asses off basically. They went up a touchdown after Daniel Jones played pretty well. He had a touchdown to Darius Slayton. But towards the end of the game, Seahawks had a chance to kick a tying field goal, but the Giants blocked it and returned it for a touchdown, and that was the end of the game. The Seahawks were not able to recover after that. And, yeah, the Giants, they play the Bengals. The Seahawks, they play the Niners tomorrow, actually. We'll see what happens in that game. But Seahawks are definitely going to be looking to bounce back after losing the last 2 games. And the Giants, I think they've won the last 2 games, actually, the Giants have. So they're on a pretty good winning streak right now. Actually, no, they haven't won the last 2 games, but they're doing pretty decent this year, the Giants. They're not as bad as I thought they would be, but it's still early in the season again, so we'll see what happens. But great win for the Giants. Seahawks need to bounce back. And finally, for the Sunday afternoon games, Cardinals 49ers. The Cardinals upset the 49ers. Brock Purdy played pretty terrible. The defense right now is playing pretty terrible. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I feel like the one thing that will ultimately, I mean, I guess you could say this about a lot of other teams too in the league. The one thing that could possibly derail the Niners this year is injuries. Christian McCaffrey could be out for the year. Deebo Samuel's been dealing with an injury, and so has George Kittle. So, yeah, right. They've lost the last, week 1 they won. Week 2 they lost to the Vikings. Week 3 they lost. Week 4 they won. Week 5. So basically, 3 of the last 4 games they've lost. So they're looking to bounce back against the Seahawks tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. And the Cardinals, they play the Packers next week. Kyler Murray has his moments. Although he could be out playing Call of Duty, the new one, which comes out late October, like October 25th, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Kyler Murray has his moments. He at times he plays like an MVP caliber quarterback, like one of the best in the league, and that other times he just looks lost. But a great win for the Cardinals and for the Niners. Yeah, they need to get going. Looking to bounce back against the Seahawks tomorrow. Another team that's looking to bounce back, but we'll see what happens. It should be a good game tomorrow, though, but we'll see. Sunday Night Football, Steelers or Cowboys-Steelers. Both offenses sucked this game. Well, the game was delayed by about an hour and a half due to weather. But once the game started, from start to finish, both offenses just struggled. But towards the end of the game, after playing pretty bad, Dak Prescott had like 2-3 interceptions in the game. He redeemed himself by having a game-winning touchdown to Jalen Tolbert, and I think that was with under 30 seconds left. So great win for the Cowboys. They play the Lions next week, my Lions next week. And the Steelers, they play the Raiders. Looking to bounce back after, again, losing the last 2. There's a couple teams on losing streaks right now. The Saints being one of them. Monday Night Football. The Saints have lost the last three games. I asked somebody what the hell happened to the Saints, because they were just destroying teams the first 2 games, and the last 2 games they've really struggled. And I heard that the offensive line is kind of banged up right now. I think a few of their players are out, so that could be one of the reasons why the Saints have lost the last 3 games. But yeah, the Saints, they're looking to bounce back against the Buccaneers. And but a great win for the Chiefs. They're not playing that well, but they're 5-0. Their defense might honestly be the best in the league. And Patrick Mahomes, he played pretty well at times. But great win for the Chiefs as they head into the bye. And after the bye, they play the Niners, who are struggling right now. So that's definitely that could definitely be a win for them. But we'll see what happens. Either way, it was a great week 5, and we'll see what happens week 6. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Deuces.